I'm sending perhaps the most important piece of legislation during my time in this office.
City leaders are trying to change the culture of the Seattle Police Department. A Pledge Council member and former SPD officer Tim Burgess has heard before.
We've had police reform efforts going back to the early 1990s. We make some changes, then things happen, and we revisit. And we've done that over and over and over.
But after a series of events in 2010, including the fatal shooting of Native American woodcarver John T. Williams by SPD officer Ian Burke, more than 30 community groups called for a federal investigation.
The Seattle Police Department engages in a pattern or practice of using unnecessary and excessive force.
That began the consent decree process between the Department of Justice and the City of Seattle, that after 7 years should yield some new legislation by the end of May.
Anytime you're trying to change a bureaucracy or an organization of this size, it's going to take time. And it's hard work.
The deal, hammered out between the council, mayor, and police and community advocates, will create 3 civilian-led police oversight entities. An Office of Police Accountability, the OPA, which will investigate officer misconduct. An Office of the Inspector General, the OIG, which will audit those investigations. And a Community Police Commission, the CPC, a 15-member group that wants an oversight role of the OIG.
We've made good progress. We have a long way to go, frankly.
Burgess, who, with the council's Safe Communities Committee chair, Lorena Gonzalez, visited cities across the country to study this oversight model, says ideally the city council would select the inspector general, the mayor would pick the head of the OPA, and the CPC would choose its own leader to create a fair, equitable system.
It's critically important that all 3 of these units be able to do their jobs independent of any political pressure.
Yet CPC Executive Director Fe Lopez is keeping the pressure on.
The proposed ordinance does not go far enough.
Lopez's group was chastised by the federal judge overseeing the consent decree 2 years ago for trying to grab power without court approval.
We are trying to build a better system for Seattle.
Lopez says the role of the CPC is critical for police accountability. Not only to provide input on officer investigations, but to help develop policies as well. And all this attention on the SPD has already yielded some successes. Seattle police data show better training has led to fewer confrontations. In 2015, officers used force in less than 2% of their 9,300 crisis calls.
The purpose of this current ordinance is to change that system and provide some community oversight that has responsibility to sunlight. The good also and the bad.
But the few times officers do use force draw the most attention, as with the fatal police shooting of Shay Taylor in 2016. Andre Taylor is his brother.
When you see your mom cry, it's tough.
An inquest jury found Shay Taylor complied with the instructions given by officers. But the jury also found the officers feared for their lives, a dilemma for at least one juror who wondered in the Seattle Times why she couldn't ask about police training and policies during the inquest.
It's a flawed, incomplete process that needs to be changed.
Andre Taylor, frustrated by the inquest, has been working to change our state's law, which says in order to prosecute a police officer, attorneys must prove beyond reasonable doubt that deadly force was used with malice. A Seattle Times investigation shows between 2005 and 2014, in 213 killings by police, only 1 officer faced charges, and no one has been convicted.
It is not just police officers that are at fault here. It is the leadership that allows an environment of no restraint. That's the problem.
This removes the lack of malice as a justifiable homicide defense.
But the effort to change the state law has stalled in Olympia. And that's not the only thing complicating Seattle's police accountability efforts.
That was very good.
Before the council's legislation can take effect, the city has to negotiate its proposed changes with its 2 police unions. Burgess says he supports the unions, but also says city leaders need to act decisively.
We need to take back the management rights that over the last 30 or 40 years have been bargained away. And that is likely to create conflict.
It's one of many conflicts the city council is now dealing with, as the upcoming passage of new legislation marks not the end of the discussion about police accountability, but a new beginning.
We need buy-in from the community as much as we need buy-in from police officers.
It may be a challenge.
Ultimately, somebody's going to have to start leading.